Hi, everyone. Welcome to this next session. We're going to be talking about the opportunities and challenges of free supported streaming TV, or FAST, as it's known to some. I am going to click the button. There we go. Oh, okay. So we are going to be talking about FAST. But before we get to the panel, where we have a number of guests, I'm going to be giving a very, very quick overview of the report that we recently released in collaboration with the NAB. So I would encourage you now to get the QR code, sign up for the report later, because you're going to want to take pictures. You probably won't be able to get your pictures in because I'm going to be talking very fast and going through the slides very quickly. So just so you know, introduction, I'm Gavin Bridge, used to write about FAST all the time for Variety, now do it at an industry blog called The Fast Master, and I work for a company called CRG Global where we do a lot of market research for FAST. So if anyone needs market research on FAST. But let's get going. So what is FAST? FAST is free ad-supported streaming TV. One of the S's is silent. It's not F-A-S-S-T, it's F-A-S-T. It's one of the two types of free streaming format out there. It's different from the other one, which is on demand. Used to be called AVOD. Now the subscription services have it. It's called FVOD for some. The real difference is FAST are linear channels. On demand, obviously, you just pick it up and you get it as it's on. And it's a growing media format, not just in the US, but also it's growing globally. So why are we here? FAST is worth money. It's very hard to figure out what the money is because no one publishes any information. But on the tiny amounts that you have, and we go through this in the NAB report, I estimate it to be about $5 billion this year in the US. There are a lot of channels here because of the money. There we go. Over 1,950 channels in February available in the US. That's in English, Spanish, and other languages too. But that just shows you across the major and medium services, I track about 20, how many FAST channels there are. People are here, and we'll talk to the panel about it, because of the opportunity that FAST presents. So what's available? You can see here, over half of these channels are what I call general entertainment. General entertainment are TV shows, documentaries, that sort of thing. Then you have movies, music, news, opinion, and sports. So the next slide just gives you a handy breakdown in percentages. You see 57% of all FAST channels are based on TV content. Don't worry, on this one, don't have to read it all out right now. But this just shows you the types of genres that we have available within FAST. So essentially, all you need to take away from this slide is it covers pretty much every type of content that you could want to watch. Lots of different movies that you can find. Many movie channels actually are mixed in genre. They're not just horror or drama, for instance, which are some popular genres that have their own channels dedicated to them. And then music, which is why Bethany's here. Music is a really interesting space in FAST. Music videos are actually, it's becoming back to normal, like the 90s are back again almost, in the sense of, if you think of it, even if you watch music channels on regular cable today, there's maybe they're a blend, maybe an hour is a genre, an hour is a different genre. FAST, the operation costs of FAST are low enough that you can actually have many channels. So the key to that is within music, you can have a 90s channel, a pop channel, an R&B channel. You can have channels. It's almost like the radio, but with music, with videos. So FAST is a great distribution for that. And that's another reason why it's growing. News, one of the reasons we're here is news. Local news is massive in FAST. And the key here is these channels actually, they're not all the FAST channels. These are the local news channels that syndicate on major, medium, third-party owned services. Some of the services actually have, there's like News On, and there's that one that advertised in the Super Bowl, but they tend to keep their channels. I think Grey is one of the major ones there. Their channels locked up within one or two services. Most people actually are distributing across multiple services, and this number represents the people who are really looking to be really reachable wherever you are. And one of my favorite slides, this shows you, based on that information, which DMAs have the most local news channels available for in the US. So again, that excludes the ones that are on the specific news-only services, but this is like in terms of general entertainment FAST, where you can find news. So it's a lot. Most of the top 100 have some channels available. And then sports and FAST is very different. You're not going to, in this country anyway, sports cost a lot of money, right? Like I used to write about the NFL rights for Variety. No one's going to be putting something that cost them $2 billion on FAST yet, even if it's free over the air. But what you do find is a lot of people are using FAST to extend their fandom. So use the NFL as an example. During the Super Bowl, they already have an ongoing super NFL channel, right, which is 24/7 on Fast. During the Super Bowl month, they ran a pop-up, so a 1 month only channel, which was for Super Bowl classics. So it's a way for people to actually, if you're a fan, you can come into the brands that you like, you can engage those brands, you can constantly monetize your fan base, even when you don't have actual games playing. And then who's in Fast, right? This just shows you the scale of what Fast is, right? These are the major media companies who are active with channels in Fast. So you can see NBC Universal has 60, A&E Networks has 37, Warner Bros. Has 34, etc. So really, pretty much every major media company has Fast at this point, which also is a reason to understand why we're here today to talk about the opportunities and challenges. If you're an entertainment company or a news company and you're not in Fast, look at your compatriots who are, and then jump in, I guess. Some quick stats from some research I've done. So we found about 40% of everyone watches at least one Fast service regularly. Amongst that, half of them have cable. So they're not just people who are looking to replace cable with something else. They're actually people who are finding value in Fast that it can sit alongside what they get from cable. And then finally, before we get to the panel, how often people watch. So again, people tend to dismiss Fast as like, oh, it's this thing, it's like small, no one cares about it, blah, blah, blah. It's not true. We found, well, they'll tell you too, but we found that about half the people who watch Fast say that they watch it daily. So it shows that it actually fulfills a need, and it's really good for consumers because they wouldn't be watching it frequently if it didn't have anything to say. So with that, final slide. If you want more from me, follow the Fast Master. That's my blog. People will tell you it's great. I won't. Just ask them, and it's pretty good. Thank you. So with that, let's go to the panel. So I will go all the way back because we had a change. Let's see if we can get to the front. So while I'm introducing, I'm getting to the nice page. We'll introduce them from left to right, or maybe it's right to left. I don't know what side I'm on. We'll start with Dan. Dan Marshall here. He is the EVP of Global SaaS Sales at Amagi. Dan, hello.
Hello.
Can you give us a 20-second overview of what you do?
What Amagi does or what I do, because I'm just sitting here enjoying the morning. And by the way, third day of NEB, you all look fabulous. So thank you for showing up. Much appreciated. Thanks. Yes. Amagi, what we do, Amagi kind of sits at the center of the broadcast universe when it comes to either traditional broadcasting or some of the supplemental distribution strategies like fast and digital linear. And so we've built some great technology there. And if you wanted to see it, I don't want to bore you with it. We're over here in the booth. We're here to more talk about some of the trends and the nature of fast, but that's what we do.
And now we have Bethany Aitchison. I already said she's from Vivo. She's the VP of Distribution Partnerships at Vivo. Bethany, what does that mean?
So Vivo is the world's leading music video network. We have just under 1 million music videos in our library, including official music videos, live performances, and produced content. In my role, I manage the business relationships with all of our endpoints, making sure that our CTV app and our fast channels are distributed and available for users.
Perfect. And next we have Michael Hyun Johnson, who's the Director of Operations at Electric Entertainment. Could you give us a brief overview of, I know by now, but like Electric Entertainment is Dean Devlin's studio, right?
That's correct. So Electric Entertainment is owned by Dean Devlin, the writer-producer of Stargate, Independence Day, Geostorm. We've launched the Electric Now Fast channel back in 2019, so it does host several series that he's created and acquired, and it's been growing and successful ever since. We've also been hosting and broadcasting the Sutton Awards, which is the Oscar version of genre entertainment, so A-list celebrity stars, and it's just been growing ever since.
Perfect. And finally, Bill Caudill or Caudill? What's the best way? Caudill. He's the Vice President of Content Partnerships at Allen Media Group, which includes a fast service, correct? So tell us a little bit.
Sure. I'm Vice President of Content Partnerships for Allen Media Group. We have several AVOD platforms, one of which being Local Now. Local Now is a AVOD platform that has local information, and we have local news partners in more than 220 cities. When you download the app on your television, it'll sniff out where you are, and you tell them where you are, and it will have local information for you. In the space of streaming, local is hard to find. So that's what we do.
Perfect. So just so you know, we're gonna do a panel for about 20 minutes, then we're gonna have to leave. But we won't leave far. If you want to ask us questions, we'll be milling around afterwards. quick show of hands. Who's here because they don't know anything about FAST? Okay, good. So you will be happy. Who's here because they want to learn a lot more about FAST? Hooray! So let's ask the panel. Bethany, why is FAST growing in popularity?
I think there's a lot of reasons FAST is growing. First, as you said, it's free, so lower barrier to entry for a lot of people, but there's a lot of content available on FAST that isn't necessarily available elsewhere. At Vivo, we've produced over 15 U.S. FAST channels from Vivo Pop to hip hop to country, decades like Vivo 80s, Vivo 70s. So a lot of this content that wasn't available on the screen before is now available and bringing in these fandoms that are ravenous for content.
I would actually say, we're going to get to it a little bit later, but very good at innovating at Vivo too. So we'll talk about your new channel soon. Bill, one of a clue in the name of Local Now, local, right? Is that a reason why people are watching FAST, that they can get the local news, they can find out what's happening?
Well, I think the pandemic, right, had a lot to do with the acceleration of streaming, obviously. And so everybody was at home and they needed entertainment. They couldn't go to the movie theater. So obviously it accelerated it. Local Now is unique. You know, we prioritize local in the app. Some of the other apps are fantastic, but you wouldn't know if you went to some of them, there was a hurricane or a weather event. So Local Now, you know, through automation has local information, you know, that in every market, but also through partnerships. So that's my main job. I'll work with all the news organizations, you know, Hearst, NPG, Scripps, you name it, and they'll repurpose their newscast. And this is relatively new for the news industry to distribute your newscast. Used to air one time and that was it. Now distribution is a part of the game and streaming is a part of it. And when I started about 3 years ago, about 30% of the industry was really, you know, aware and had a strategy for FAST in terms of local news. 70% didn't. Now they do. This year, many of the groups I've been talking to are really have a strategy now.
I will say too, Local Now, by my counts, has the highest number of local news channels of any of the services.
So we have about 250 partners right now, but we also have automation in 220 markets. So we have news in every market with partners and partnerships growing.
So that's another reason why FAST is growing. You don't need TV. I shouldn't say this to the NAB. You don't need TV to watch TV. But Mike, you come from a more the entertainment side. What are you seeing with like the popularity and like what audiences and why people are coming more into FAST?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as you said, you know, ease of access, and it's really just, you know, eliminating the paradox of choice, you know, for a lot of our consumers. You know, there's just so much different kinds of content and various ways to view it, especially with SVOD models. So people are trying to, you know, limit their choices with SVOD, and moving to FAST because they can watch their you know, favorite shows and series, you know, at a lower rate, and then there's a lower point of entry. And there's essentially just a better way just to experiment with, you know, what channels you are akin to, you know, are really familiar with. And if you don't like a specific channel, you can always drop it, and you just have that risk kind of dropped off, you know, other than using SVOD.
Dan, I'm leaving you to the end because I feel like you can give like the 10,000 foot view being from Amagi here.
Yes.
What are you seeing in sort of what are your thoughts on why we're seeing this continued growth?
Well, it's interesting. I want to go back to one of your slides where you were listing the largest providers of FAST, and you had Warner Media listed up there towards the top. Now, the interesting thing there is Warner Media just entered FAST 6 months ago. So can you imagine how fast that took off for them?
Yeah, right? and that number's now wrong because they've just released another slew of channels.
So the landscape has really changed, but to see, you know, part of the reason why FAST has taken off is because it's fairly low cost to do, right? When you think about those assets, for most content owners and broadcasters, that content already exists. So instead of using it once, build these FAST channels, these traditional FAST channels, which have been ganging up these VOD assets together and putting out these channels. I'm sure all of us has got a Samsung TV or a new television. When you open it up and you see these 150 channels, Baywatch channel, Doctor Who channel, whatever you're into. I mean, it's amazing how much content that you can get. But to be able to take that very specific content and give it a platform first off, and actually be able to monetize that and make money. You couldn't do that through traditional broadcast because of the costs. So on the one hand, you have the opportunity on the creator side to get content out that typically hasn't been seen. And on the viewer side, as we mentioned, it's free. And there's a whole lot of options to look at. And, the convergence of that world has just really made FAST, take off at an unbelievable pace. And the Warner Media example is another example of what's happening. I think the other thing to recognize is that looking at the tier one content owners that have come into the space recently, like sports. We mentioned sports. We mentioned news, right? You're now starting to see FAST channels from, like you mentioned, in the NFL, and you see the NHL and MLB. These major sports leagues and teams now creating their own FAST channels. So, the reach and the additional monetization options is what's driving this. And obviously it's good for the consumer as well.
One key thing, I haven't done this experiment myself since I did it in 2021. So it took me a long time. I timed the ad breaks on every FAST service that was showing Unsolved Mysteries. And I found then, and I think it's still true from watching FAST today, FAST has a lower ad load than what traditional TV has. And consumers actually are aware of this. I've done research talking with them. And then one of the key selling points they'll mention is, I know it's free, but I know I have to watch ads, but it's not a bad amount of ads. I'm not having to watch 22 minutes of ads an hour to get my show. So there is this toleration of ads that I think people had forgotten, and FAST has almost reopened the door to when you sort of saw Netflix and Disney adding their ad-supported tiers. Part of that was down to FAST showing consumers actually accept ads. So now we're going to talk about some innovations within FAST. Bill, I want to start with you because you mentioned them. You didn't give them their technical name. The hyperlocal channels. I think the ones that you mentioned that you're pulling in feeds from different news services and creating a customized local channel. That to me is very innovative. Can you?
Yes.
What led to that?
Yeah. Well, Byron Allen, who owns Local Now and the Weather Channel, if you're familiar with Weather on the 8s type of technology on the Weather Channel, it's been around for about 20 years or more. It was very innovative for cable and broadcasting at the time. That type of technology has been applied to Local Now. So that helps with the localism in every single market. Now, we're a news organization. We have a news director. We have news reporters. We have partners. We have automated. We're throwing everything at it. So automation, though, allows that, and we are looking at AI and talking to, and how that might work. But nothing, it's great information, right? It's weather, it's traffic, all that kind of stuff. But one of the, key benefits of Local Now is the partners, the local brands that the local community, love their local brands. They've grown up with those brands. You can't underestimate the strength of those brands and those types of audiences, particularly the information as it relates to weather, news, democracy, and so on.
So it kind of works almost like as an anchor, right? Like it can draw people in and then they can find other content afterwards.
It absolutely does. We prioritize local from the very beginning. I do believe the other platforms and as well as the television OEMs will become more and more local within a year or two.
Well, on the topic of drawing people in, Mike, I want to talk to you about if you're not aware, this is a really interesting case study of what FAST can actually do. Electric Entertainment, with their channel Electric Now, is one of the first companies, I think, that actually used FAST to grow a TV audience, right? So can you tell us a little bit about what happened with the ARC last year?
Yeah, of course. Electric Entertainment, first and foremost, is a production company and a post-production company. Dean Devlin, the owner, is very wise to maintaining ownership all of our titles. So for the ARC, which is premiered on Sci-Fi Channel, when it did premiere, it had the highest viewership in the last 4 years for Sci-Fi, and the pilot did extremely well. Unfortunately, on the second episode dropped about 30% in viewership. But we had retained rights to do a short-term licensing term for the first 2 episodes to air exclusively on Electric Now, the FAST channel. So the fandom really was devoted and loyal to the series and to the FAST channel, and of course to Dean, who is kind of a spokesmodel as well. But that audience from Electric Now actually went back to Sci-Fi and returned the viewership on the 3rd episode, and it surpassed the pilot. So actually helped motivate Sci-Fi to renew for season 2, which is actually going to premiere later this year. So this growing audience that, bouncing between from Sci-Fi to Electric Now as a FAST, we can kind of maintain our fans and provide new content. We also have produce after shows, unscripted originals that are also exclusive on Electric Now. And that motivated and continued the conversation as we release the next episode for, our platform partners.
And now you have other companies doing similar things. So there's Banijay has a Deal or No Deal channel, and they came out with Deal or No Deal Island earlier this year. They used the fast channels to promote that similarly, and also saw a rise. So it shows you how you can actually, fast is great for, like I mentioned about sports earlier, for engaging the audience who's a key fan of that content. Brings me to Bethany. Vivo, right, originally pop-up channels were an innovation in fast, right? You could get seasonal pop-ups that, whether it was for a movie premiere or Christmas songs, you would have a channel that would just arrive and then disappear a month or two later. But Vivo has taken that concept and done something even more innovative, right, within fast. So tell us a bit more about, is it Vivo?
Vivo Features.
Oh, I should remember it by now.
So, as you said, kind of born of the idea of a pop-up channel with content that's very relevant to a certain time frame. So we started with Vivo Holiday, but wanted to think about how we could replicate that success throughout the year. So when we look at the year, there are several tent poles that media brands and communities really rally around. So we developed Vivo Features to aggregate all of that content together and create a hub. So we just wrapped up March, which was Women's History Month. So we had all content featuring celebrating women, created by women. Next month is Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, followed by Pride Month and Black Music Month. So throughout the year, we have all these different tent poles that we can rally around. And we work with our partners to get them featured in their content hubs so that they're rounding out their experiences for their audiences as well.
It's well worth a watch as well. And then, Dan, let's final innovation to talk about, the integration of live, right? Because that wasn't always possible.
Correct. I think it's been a real, within the last year, we've seen that integration of live into fast channels. So you think about like local news or even sports, media entertainment. But you've taken that fast channel as an example, and I'll give you an example of a customer of ours, Outside TV. So they have a fast channel that they run, and then 10 o'clock Saturday morning, they insert a live program, triathlon. And so they'll run a triathlon for 3 hours. And during that 3 hours of live programming, their CPMs, if you're not familiar with the CPM is the amount of money you pay for the ad pod, right? Advertisers pay more money for that live because they're getting more viewers during that session. Then after that, you have the ability to go ahead and insert other VOD programming, what we call shoulder programming, which still has higher CPMs than the standard fast channel. So seeing the integration of live and being able to put in VOD assets on the fly are making great technology advancements and again, more optionality for monetization of that channel. So when you start looking at that, you start not thinking about fast so much, but about digital linear experiences. And that's kind of the third leg as you look at content owners and broadcasters. Traditional broadcast has always been there. You have fast coming up as an alternate form of monetization and reach. And now you have the digital linear channel, also another form of monetization and reach with the addition of things like gamification, right? If you think about sports as an example, you want to do gambling, or you want to do trivia, or you want to build Twitch-like experiences. So two people can be looking at the same sports content or the same entertainment content, whether it's a concert, and be able to have communication, be able to talk through these chats. You can't do that on anything except a digital linear IP-based stream. So we're seeing a huge amount of innovation coming around that. So this evolution of fast into digital linear and pairing with broadcast, that's a lot of the technology innovation that we're seeing today, and it's having a significant impact because it's allowing to do local news where you can cut in local news, like we're working with Local Now on that. So it's just that makes the user experience so much better to get those live programmings real time on a fast channel than having to traditionally be on a broadcast channel.
So this time's flying, close to 5 minutes left, but I'm going to get everyone a new question. First one, I know Bethany will want to answer it. Anyone else can jump in on it too. Let's talk about curation quickly, because curation has really changed. Like, it used to not really, fast has really rapidly evolved. Now curation is almost like it's a set mandate almost from the providers, right? What does curation do for channels? Does it limit churn? Does it like help people come in? And Okay, and could you explain what that means as well?
Absolutely. So in our case, curation is really organizing all of the pieces of content that we have, not only within each channel, but within blocks. There are sub-genres within pop and hip hop and R&B to make sure people are really getting what they're looking for when they're tuning in. So we have these evergreen blocks that kind of exist throughout the year. And then when there are moments that we want to surround, an artist's birthday, an album drop, a holiday, we layer that into the programming as well. So it makes the content relevant. It makes it feel cohesive. So it increases time spent with our channels. It really does lead to retention and makes them stay and makes them come back.
I mean, I would actually argue if you watch some fast channels now and compare it to some cable channels, fast channels tend to be better curated than like MTV when it's just ridiculousness all day long. I'm not saying that to cause controversy. I think it's, you know, the standard has actually really come up high. Let's now talk about consumer loyalty so we can hit all the topics. How do we build loyalty within a platform and a channel? Bill, you're looking like you want to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're lucky in that local news brands have loyalty already built in each market in the country. So from that perspective, we're in great shape, and we're just allowing, you know, further reach of that brand to cord cutters. And so, in introducing cord cutters to the local news brand as well. So we're kind of fortunate in that regard. As an overall app, Local Now, we're continuing to iterate the EPG, personalization, those types of things. But local really sets us apart, and that's mainly why people come in. And then we have 20,000 VOD assets that we work with these folks on, movies and television shows, 500 channels. So from an app standpoint, loyalty, we're continuing to personalize it and make it better.
Mike, I've mentioned it a bit. I think you can put a good cherry on top of this. Do you see like the value enhancement of having a channel dedicated to the studio and being able to reach fans all the time?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps in audience retention, you know, over time, and especially, you know, as they both touched on it, curation and developing loyalty with your audience. It definitely has helped to, you know, grow our specific fast channel, and just maintain our audience as we have marathon sessions, you know, of older previous shows such as Leverage, for example, which premiered, you know, mid 2000s. That loyal fandom, you know, watching our fast channel in 2019 and 2020 helped to motivate Amazon to greenlight for Leverage Redemption, which has been a reboot of the series. So, you know, maintaining a communication with our audience by curation, by interaction, and maintaining marathon sessions has helped to kind of grow our audience and push that over to other platform partners, and help us kind of move forward with other productions and across the country.
Thank you. Dan, final word. What do you miss out on if you're not in fast?
What do you miss out on when you're not in fast? Well, we said it. You miss out on monetization options. You miss out on increasing your reach. You miss out on like delivering really unique experiences to people. Like I mentioned, I mean, how many folks can actually say that, you know, they have a Doctor Who channel or something like that? I just think the pure entertainment value, music, like Vivo Metal, man, that's my channel. So no, it's great to be able to have this optionality. You miss out on those experiences if you're not on either side of it.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up with, based on this conversation, who is now more interested in fast? That's all right.
Oh, come on.
Who doesn't like fast anymore because of this? Well, that's it. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Panelists, you are all wonderful. Thank you for sticking up with my blitzing presentation. Have a good rest of the conference.